now we're down by 3. Look inside yourself, what do you see? The pain is in your mind, no, nothing stops me. Everyone is looking at me. Heart is pounding, now we're down by 3. Look inside yourself, I know what I see. Do you have the guts to do it for me? Gonna sweat, gonna work, we're gonna burn, it's gonna hurt. We're gonna fight, we're gonna score, we're gonna win, we're gonna war. Right of the glass, kick some ass. Boom, chicka, boom, chicka. Kick some ass. Right of the cage, turn the page. Time to break, not gonna choke. Game over, no class, don't gloat. If we win, we'll be the GOAT. Do you have the heart to give him some hope? Everyone is looking at me. Time to protest, I'm on my knees. Raise my fist so that everyone sees. I'm gonna stand up for what I believe. Gonna sweat, gonna work, gonna burn. It's gonna hurt. We're gonna fight. We're gonna score. We're gonna win. We're gonna war. Right on the glass. Kick some ass. Kick some ass. Right of the cage. Turn the page. Boom, chicka, boom, chicka. Gonna sweat. We're gonna work. We're gonna burn. It's gonna hurt. We're gonna fight. We're gonna score. We're gonna win. We are going to war. Right of the glass. Kick some ass. Boom, chicka, boom, chicka. Kick some ass. Right of the cage. Turn the page.
Here we go.
Welcome to Puckin' Pigskin. Great sports fans talking hockey and football with a dash of everything else.
Hello, sports fans and friends. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube and Facebook Live. We are coming to you live from Puckin' Pigskin World Headquarters here in Red Deer, Alberta. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I go live and post. And don't forget to drop your comments and questions into the chat because viewer interaction is one of the best things about doing this live. Another great show for you tonight. Big Brother Canada alum, cameo star, podcast host, and CFL writer for 3 Down Nation, Ryan Ballantine, chatted with me on Monday night to talk about the Calgary Flames, Stampeders, Big Brother Canada, RuPaul, Drag Race, and more. I'll have that for you shortly. After that, I'll have my predictions for this weekend's CFL Grey Cup Playoff matchups. But first, let's start with a new show segment that I want to call Hot Topics. All right, stepping into football first, the CFL playoffs begin Saturday with Hamilton at Montreal and Calgary at BC. I'll break down my predictions later on in the show. Will anyone stop the Blue Bombers in the West? I hope so. I hope yes, but probably not. Will anyone stop the Argos in the East? No, I don't think so. Als used the onside punt to gain first down again. They've tried this 3 times. They've been successful twice. Do you like this rule? I am a big fan of this rule because it keeps the defense honest and doesn't just allow them to sit back on 4th and long situations. So I'm a fan of keeping this rule. However, it's kind of looking like the rule committee is going to kibosh that one. The Riders let Craig Dickinson go, Coach Craig Dickinson. So who's next in line? Looks like it could be former Riders quarterback Henry Burris. Tweet an article by 3 Down Nation says that Burris believes he is ready to take on the top job. So we'll see if the Riders move forward with Henry Burris and if Burris moves forward with the Riders. Is there trouble in Las Vegas for the Raiders? Devontae Adams was visibly pissed after quarterback Jimmy G missed him on a couple strikes that may have led to touchdowns. Jimmy leads the league in interceptions with 9 and has only thrown 7 touchdowns. He'll be benched and replaced by rookie Aiden O'Connell moving forward. And the Raiders also fired head coach Josh McDaniels. So let's see if there's going to be a turnaround in Las Vegas. The Philadelphia Eagles continue to be hot with a 7-1 record. 5 teams after that sit at 6-2. And the Arizona Cardinals are the worst in the NFL right now with a 1 win and 7 losses, followed by the Carolina Panthers at 1-6. Let's step into some hockey news now. Former Pittsburgh Penguins Adam Johnson died Saturday after his throat was slashed by a skate of an opposing player, Matt Petgrave. An investigation has been launched to determine whether Petgrave did it intentionally. Johnson's Nottingham Panthers teammates are standing behind Petgrave, saying both players were moving really fast and Petgrave's leg was clipped, forcing it upward. And the Heritage Classic was played on the weekend with the Edmonton Oilers topping the Calgary Flames by a score of 5-2. Boo. Leon Draisaitl had 2 assists and McDavid had 1 assist, so the 2 stars not really getting on the score sheet in a big way, but they're helping out. Evander Kane had a goal and 2 assists. On the Flames side of things, AJ Greer, 1 goal, Kadri, 1 goal, and it was a pretty lackluster performance by the Flames, which is typical Calgary Flames this season. Winnipeg Jets are having some attendance woes. The last 4 games, they've been just over 11,000 with 11,898, 11,136, and 11,521 fans against the defending Stanley Cup champion Golden Knights. Capacity is 16,345 in the arena, and last season in October, Jets were averaging about 13,000 to 14,000. Ex-Jet Blake Wheeler chimed in, saying he believes the poor turnouts are not a reflection of the team, and said you don't know what people are going through, and economically, times aren't necessarily as good as they've ever been. The NHL sent a memo to all teams and took a vote about a decentralized NHL draft for 2025 possibly. NHL Deputy Director Bill Daly says a very strong majority of teams are in favor of the decentralized draft. There was no report of when the proposal would be instituted. The 2024 NHL draft is scheduled to be held in Las Vegas. And will anyone stop the Golden Knights from repeating? No. And the Connor Bedard watch right now stands at 9 games played, 4 goals, 2 assists for 6 points. Sorry. Okay. Now let's cue up my chat with Ryan Ballantine from Monday night. Keep in mind, this is a recording, so Ryan will not see or be able to respond to comments in the text chat. According to his Twitter bio, my next guest has been on Big Brother Canada and is equally capable of talking about football, hockey, or RuPaul's Drag Race. Ryan Ballantine, welcome to Puck and Pigskin.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking about anything not Flames. So,
Yes.
Drag Race, maybe? Maybe Stampeders.
So first off, I have to ask you about your Big Brother Canada experience because I'm a Big Brother fan myself. Canada, I don't watch as religiously as the American one, but give us your Coles Notes version of your takeaways from that show.
Well, first of all, I think you're missing out. I think Canada is a better game. The comps are better. They're more well balanced. It doesn't have the budget, certainly, of the American version, but they do the most with what they have. And I think Canada outsells the U.S. version on most seasons. So I recommend you picking it up. I also recommend anybody else. It's audition season. Get your tapes in to Big Brother Canada. If you can afford to take 3 months away from your life, then do so. Apply because it's a life-changing experience. I finished 9th. In my season, made the jury, got to vote for a winner, and
Nice.
and felt good about how my season went. And really, at the end of it all, it's an experience I recommend everybody trying if they can. It's not a game for everybody, certainly, but it is a game worth playing.
Yeah, so if you're not doing anything else for the next 3 months, because we're certainly don't want to watch hockey right now, so
Yeah, I think they take you away in February, so you won't have to be disappointed that the Flames don't make the playoff.
Exactly. And to follow up on that, I also saw that you're now on Cameo. Is that correct? So people can pay you to make Cameo videos. How's that going?
I've done one so far. It's really interesting. I tried to get on Cameo when I got off the show because that's what a bunch of people do. And, you can sometimes make a couple $100 in the aftermath of the show. And so that's what I tried to do. And then Cameo rejected me at the time, said I didn't have enough followers or whatever it was. And now they've come back to me 5 years later and were like, hey, you were on reality TV. Would you like to be on Cameo? I was like, yeah, but I don't think anybody's going to ever remember me at this point. So I'm on there. I'm cheap, and I'll say almost anything you want for $10. So feel free to look me up on Cameo.
And it's only $10. I had no idea that Cameo could actually reject you. I thought anybody could just go on Cameo and do cameos.
No, they do have to approve you because they want you to be a quote unquote celebrity. Not that I think that I qualify, but you want to tell somebody at your work that you're the one that ate their lunch. I'm happy to do that, or trash talk your fantasy football opponent for the week. I can do that. It's not like I've got a lot of money to speak of, but my intention is with the money when I get some, if I get some, is to take that money and add it into this charity thing we do where we adopt families for Christmas and buy Christmas gifts for people who can't afford it. So your money would not be going to me. It would be going to a good cause through me. So if you're out there and you want to check it out, you can find me on Cameo, BB Ken Ryan.
Oh, that's cool. So not off the cameos, hence why you have podcasts on the go. I saw you were the host of Horseman Radio podcast. Is that still going?
So we're the Go Stamps Go show now.
Okay.
This season has been a little bit sketchy for episodes just because I've been traveling so much for the day job. But we're hoping to get another episode recorded here this week and do a bit of a playoff preview, and then follow that with playoff shows all the way through to and including the Stampeders winning the Grey Cup.
Nice. Yeah. I kind of, when I was searching for you, I kind of thought that you had changed to the Go Stamps Go show, but looking at some of their photos and stuff, I didn't see you in any of them, so I wasn't quite sure.
I take the pictures. I'm the official show photographer, so I'm the guy behind the camera. I take the pictures rather than be in the pictures. So it's normally just Steph and Barry, and I'm the one taking it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I watched a couple episodes of theirs, and I knew I didn't see you anywhere. So, and I believe you and Danny Austin right now are doing live from the 55, which obviously focuses on the Stampeders. Anything else besides 2 podcasts and cameos that you got on the go?
One, and you can read me on 3 Down Nation. So I'm the Stamps beat reporter on 3downnation.com. So you can check me out there. And it is Danny's show live from the 55. I'm just a regular guest. He brings me in every couple of weeks to come in and chat. But yeah, that's a good time too. Pretty much anywhere anyone's talking about the Stampeders, I'm happy to jump on and do so myself.
Okay, yeah. Funny. It's funny that you say that because I don't watch every episode of that one, but I believe the 4 that I've watched, you've been on. So I just figured you were a
Well, you
regular.
picked the right
You were
4.
All right, so let's get right to the elephant in the room, dressed in just overalls and a cowboy hat. What the hell is going on with the Flames so far?
Whoosh. There are people who get paid a lot more than me that are wondering the same thing. Um, the whole idea in the offseason coaching change was that the players didn't want to play for Daryl Sutter.
Yeah.
And it's certainly starting to look like they don't want to play for Ryan Huska either. And I don't want, I don't know Ryan. I haven't spoken to him at all or know anything about him or know how he is in the room or anything like that. But I mean, right now, just the play of the Flames just seems so lackluster. The try's not there. I don't know if I can curse on this podcast or not.
Yep.
But the give a damn, if you will, just doesn't seem to be there. And it's they can't score. They haven't been defending very well. Markstrom's playing okay, but it's not like he's stealing you any games either. It just everything they touch right now is a disaster, and you have to wonder if there's just such a lack of leadership in the room and a lack of buy-in on their new coach.
Yeah, so talking about the leadership in the room, what are your thoughts on Backlund as the new captain?
Well, I mean, everybody said the right things when he was named captain. All the players came out and said, yes, he's the guy. We're absolutely, we'd go through a wall for Michael Backlund and all that stuff. And he's always been a guy that led by example. He goes out, he works hard, he plays hard, and leads the room. But I think when you look at that, I don't want to say that generation of draft picks left, but your Johnny Gaudreau's, your Sean Monahans, your Matthew Tkachuk's, all of those guys were kind of pegged to be the future leaders of this team, and they got letters ahead of Michael Backlund when Daryl Sutter was here. And now that those guys are gone, Backlund's getting the letter, but is it a byproduct of he's the best guy that's left, or that he was the best man for the job? And I don't know that those two things are the same right now. I mean, the leadership you're seeing from Zadorov just coming out and saying, putting it right out on Front Street, hey, we're playing like garbage right now. No, we don't have enough try from our players. Like, that's captain stuff. And I don't know whether or not Backlund's doing it in the room. He's certainly not doing it in the media.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like he's done much on the ice so far. I was actually just looking up.
I think none of them have.
Yeah, looking at the stats before we went on air here, I mean, he's definitely nowhere near. What was he? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's 7th in scoring right now. But I mean, your top guy is Lindholm with 2 goals and 4 assists, so he's not even a point a game. And yeah, you definitely need more than that to be successful, I think.
Yeah, I think if we're checking the stats, you and I are 12-13 on that team for scoring right now.
Yeah.
Or at least we might as well be tied for it because we've got no points and neither does anybody else. This team just isn't doing very well right now. Something's wrong, and unfortunately, it's 1 year too late. They had the next generational talent in Connor Bedard and could have blown this team up last year. And I think, quite frankly, as a fan, as a season ticket holder, I would have been perfectly fine if Johnny and Matthew Tkachuk left last year and management just said, hey, look, this is what it is. And we had to, those guys are gone and there's nothing we can do about that. But, the future, we have to play for the future and we're going to rebuild and all of that. I still would have gone to see a rebuilding team with a bunch of young kids that was losing but showing promise with the idea that Bedard was a possibility. I mean, right now, I just don't know that there's that generational player that's going to be first overall this year, second overall. And I think Calgary's in 31st place right now. So they could potentially get their best draft pick ever if the season were to continue this way. But if it's going to, it's time to start shipping guys out and amassing assets for the future.
Yeah, so looking right now, that we don't want to look at that. That's NFL. I don't. So let's look at the standings.
Flames aren't doing very well in those standings either.
Oh, we're 31st. Yeah, the Sharks are the only team worse than us right now.
Yeah, and I
So
think the Sharks are winless, right? They haven't picked up a single win yet on the season.
yeah, I think somebody needs to tell them that Bedard's already been picked, so there's no point in
Crashing for
so
Connor or bombing for Bedard or whatever they were last year.
yeah. So looking at the goaltending here, we got Markstrom, who is 1 win, 5 losses, 1 overtime loss. Vladar 1-1. Markstrom just barely over 900 for save percentage, and Vladar is under. So definitely underperforming in the goaltending position as well. Do you think Markstrom can turn things around, or is this going to be another shaky season?
Well, the thing is the goals that I'm seeing, and admittedly, I don't watch every Flames game. I just, my son also plays hockey, and so most of the nights I'm at the rink watching him. But I don't know that a lot of the goals are to Markstrom's to blame. You've got 2-on-1s, you've got high danger chances that are being converted. Markstrom has made some pretty spectacular saves, and I don't know that he's the reason they're losing. And yes, his save percentage isn't necessarily where you need it to be, but it's not like these are just, casual wristers from the point. He's taking 2-on-1s, it's rebounds, it's things like that are coming out and getting hit home, and that's, to me, that a majority of that it falls on the defense before it falls on the goalie.
Yeah, a lot of tip-in goals. I'd have to agree with you that what I have seen, and again, I don't watch every game either, but from what I've seen, I mean, last night in the Heritage Classic, he didn't look too bad. I mean, I think 2 of the goals he let in were not his fault. One definitely his fault, and the other one, I mean, yeah, hard to stop that. Who scored the first goal? That tip by Kane, I believe, or not? It wasn't.
No,
It didn't
Hyman.
Yeah, Hyman.
Yeah, Hyman had the first one, and then it gets worse and worse for this team as time goes on, and unfortunately they're tied into some of these guys for long contracts.
Yeah.
It's starting to look like Nazem Kadri was a terrible signing. But maybe they can find something for him, and he finds some sort of form. He did get his first goal of the season last night, so maybe that shakes off a bit of the slump. But it's just been hard to watch as a Calgary sports fan in almost all directions right now for Calgary. But the Flames have been pretty bad.
Yeah, Kadri, I don't think looked too bad last night, and Greer I thought looked good last night, and I think he's looked good in the other 2 games I've seen. So he's looking promising.
But then you also have Tyler Toffoli with the fastest to 10 points with a new team of any. He joins 3 players in NHL history as the fastest to 10 points with a new team. So it does get difficult to watch. You have Matthew Tkachuk going to the Stanley Cup Finals as an MVP candidate. You have, Johnny Gaudreau had a decent, if not a Johnny Gaudreau-like season, but he had a decent season in his first season in Columbus, and all of the return here has just not been very good. Uyghur is probably the only player out of all of them that I've thought he's value for his money. He's come in and he's been high value for his contract, and I like the extension for him. I mean, you can't just trade $7.5 and $10 million contracts every day, but I'm not saying that those guys are on their way out anytime soon, but they're not producing to the value that they signed for.
Yeah, and really, would you expect anything less out of Toffoli? I mean, look at everyone that's left Calgary; they've all had success. Dougie Hamilton did it when he left. You mentioned.
Well, we can go back to Martin St. Louis if we want.
And Doug Gilmour.
Doug Gilmour, Brett Hull did pretty well after getting traded by the Flames. Now, Brett Hull got traded for a Stanley Cup, so I think that's the one that you look back on and go, oh. But he scored 600 and some odd goals in his career, but the Flames got their only Stanley Cup as a result of that trade. So it's not the worst trade. But yeah, when you look, I mean, even guys like Al McInnes was successful in St. Louis for a good long time after leaving here. The only people who aren't successful after leaving Calgary are coaches. I think outside of Daryl Sutter and this may be an outdated stat, but I think outside of Daryl Sutter, and Terry Crisp, those are the only two guys that have ever gotten head coaching jobs after being fired by the Flames. So, and I think that's still correct. There may be a guy or two that snuck in now, but head coaching jobs after leaving the Flames, I think at one point it was just Terry Crisp in Tampa and Daryl Sutter in San Jose, and that was it. Everybody else did not get another coaching job after they left here. So, yeah, if you're not good enough to coach in Calgary, apparently you are not good enough to coach anywhere.
That's right. We're the standard.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
we're the bare minimum standard.
so what's the feeling around town? Is the sky falling?
I don't think anybody expected them to be good. I really don't. There's nobody I'm talking to that's like, oh, I can't believe the Flames are off to this terrible start. Most everybody I'm talking to is like, well, yeah, they sucked last year, and then they traded Toffoli, who was their leading goal scorer, so they're not scoring. This is not a surprise. They didn't address scoring in the draft. They didn't address scoring in the offseason. Sharagovich is not exactly the guy that lit the world on fire and was going to be the one to replace Tyler Toffoli. So at this point, I don't know that anybody's really feeling all that surprised that the Flames are off to this bad start. I mean, also at the same time, maybe it does take time. You got to give a coach time to do things too. Yeah. He's instituting his own systems. They're still figuring them out. You've got a new power play with Mark Savard, and they're trying to figure that stuff out. So, it was a season of upheaval in the front office. And sometimes it takes time for those changes to really kind of come to the fore.
Yeah, I'm certainly not surprised. I mean, the Flames are typically get off to a rough start in October, so I wouldn't say that the sky is quite falling yet. But if they look like this heading into December, then I'll be worried.
Well, isn't the cutoff American Thanksgiving? I think it's if you're in a playoff spot on American Thanksgiving, you've got an 85% chance of still being a playoff spot at the end of the season, or some ridiculous number that's very, very high. They've got about 3 weeks to turn it around, and if they don't, they're really going to be fighting that uphill battle.
I think it's time to put somebody on LTIR and go after Patrick Kane.
I wish. I thought they should get Patrick Kane a long time ago, but getting off to this kind of start isn't going to get you Patty Kane. Patty Kane's waiting till the deadline to join a contender and get himself another cup ring, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. So switching gears to the Pigskin side of things here, give me your analysis on what you see, what you saw from the Calgary Stampeders this season.
Less wins than they should have had as a 6-12 team. I think that they're better than their record would indicate. I think they absolutely have a chance of winning this playoff game this weekend on Saturday and going in and beating Winnipeg. I don't know that they can beat the team out east, whoever comes out east, but I do think that they're very capable of beating both the Blue Bombers and the BC Lions in these West Division playoffs. Injuries was really the story of the year. The team will never use injuries as an excuse, but as an analyst, I'm allowed to. You look at guys like Malik Henry being gone. He went down 3 or 4 games in. You have Clark Barnes, who was the team's Rookie of the Year nominee despite missing half the season. He goes down in Week 9. You have a variety of receiver injuries throughout the season and never really a solid receiving core to throw the ball to. And then the guys that did stick around and the guys that were here really suffered from cases of the dropsies at times, just clanking footballs off their hands. And then you get a 2-and-out and everyone goes, it's Jake Mayer's fault.
Yeah.
It's not Jake Mayer's fault if he hits the guy for first down yardage, square in the numbers, and the guy gets both hands on it and drops it. And not because he was hit, but because he just drops the ball. Everyone's like, Jake Mayer with another 2-and-out. It's like, no, that's on the guy that dropped the ball. So I think Jake got an unfair run from the fans this year because he certainly was not getting as much help as he could have from the receiving corps.
Yeah, so speaking of Jake Mayer, Bo Levi goes and signs in Hamilton, leaving us with Jake Mayer. And of course, Jake Maier did well the season that he backed up Bo. Do you think that Maier is developing as much as Huff and Dickinson thought he would?
It's hard to tell again because I don't think he had the time he had last year. When with the tackles, you lost both Derek Dennis in training camp. Derek Dennis gets cut, and then you also had Julian Good-Jones on the other side who goes to the NFL and doesn't come back. So you have two new tackles, and those tackles have not been great. The Jake Maier's been on the run for most of the season, and then when he does get the ball down the field, guys are dropping it. So I think it's not necessarily a byproduct of how Jake has developed, but how the team around him hasn't been as good as they were a year ago. And it'll be very curious to see next season. I mean, Jake's got guaranteed money, so we know that he'll be the starter, or at least he'll have the starter's job coming into camp next year. Whether or not he holds on to it is an interesting question, but it'll be interesting in this offseason to see how the Stampeders go about reloading that offensive line to get him the kind of protection that he needs, and whether or not they sign a receiver or two or just rely on the guys coming back. Jalen Philpott's another guy that I didn't even mention. He was supposed to be a featured receiver in this offense, and now he was gone for the year. So all of these guys being gone, and you've lost three of your probably six best receivers. And so I don't know that it's necessarily fair to look at Jake Maier's production this year and judge him based on who wasn't around, which was effective tackles to block defenders and guys that would reliably catch the ball every time.
Yeah, that's fair. And I definitely do think that they have a shot of beating BC this week. I mean, we can't take much out of last week's game because, it's – I don't know if BC – I didn't actually watch that game, but I'm not sure BC dressed all of their starters in that game, whereas –
the only one sitting was the receiver. It starts with a T, and it's gone from my brain at the moment. But they did start. They started most of their offense. They started most of their defense. Okay. They were talking about trying to keep pace with Winnipeg and needing to win that game. And Calgary just came out and punched them in the mouth right from the opening whistle, and stayed with them and stayed on them and was able to really beat up on the Lions in a way that I think is repeatable. The Lions defense hasn't done great against the run this year. If Calgary's defense is able to keep the Lions from scoring often early, I think Calgary's offense is going to be able to run the ball relatively at will, because those pass rushers are about pass rushing, not against run tackling. And so, the Stamps put up over 200 yards on the ground a couple weeks ago, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them do the exact same thing in that building.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you believe that they actually might have a shot of going through the Blue Bombers as well. So
I think either BC or Calgary, whoever wins the West semifinal, is going to the Grey Cup.
Okay, that's interesting. So that you definitely don't see the Blue Bombers making another appearance.
No, I think the Blue Bombers have been showing signs of their age this season, and Brady Oliveira being an exception. I think Zach hasn't been making as great of choices as he's made all season. I think if you look at the Stampeders' record against the Bombers, I think just once out of their last 7 games, it was more than a 1-score difference. Now, granted, the Bombers won all of those games, but Calgary certainly had their chances to win. You had a Rene Paredes missed field goal against the Bombers last year. You had Reggie, the ball bouncing off of Kamar Jordan's bicep and into a defender's arms in the end zone to take away what would have been a go-ahead score against Winnipeg. So I think Calgary matches up very well against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and age has got to come for these guys at some point, and their offensive line hasn't been as good as it or as dominant as it has in years past, and that's why I think they're vulnerable to a playoff loss.
Yeah, interesting. That's some interesting analysis, actually, and it actually makes sense. So who do you got coming out of the East, do you think?
This one's tough. Personal preference. Like if I have my storybook end to this season.
You're going exactly where I wanted you to.
Well, it's going to be Calgary against Hamilton, right? You've got Bo Levi Mitchell against his former team in the Grey Cup Championship. I don't think that there's a better story at home, in front of the Ticats fans, like Calgary did with Montreal in 2008, playing against Calvillo at home. I think it's very much the game I want to see is Calgary versus Hamilton. What's the game I think we're going to see? I think we're going to see BC versus Toronto. I'd also accept Calgary versus Toronto. I think that's a fantastic game as well. But, I mean, if I'm putting money down right now, yeah, well, again, it's Stampeders East versus Stampeders West, right? That crossover of players and coaches and, everyone but Chad Kelly was a Stampeder on that team at one point or another. I guess Andrew Harris as well, but all of those guys, a lot of their big playmakers were Stampeders. A bunch of their defenders were Stampeders. You've got Corey Mace as the defensive coordinator, Ryan Dinwiddie as the head coach. I mean, all of that Stamps East versus West. Yes, please. I think that would be a great matchup as well. I think either of the two Stampeder matchups against those teams are better. The Stamps versus Montreal isn't as good. I'd rather see Winnipeg, Toronto, or BC, Toronto, or BC, Hamilton, or Montreal. I'd rather see any combination of those teams except Calgary, Montreal, just, from a storyline perspective. But I think it would be fantastic if it was Calgary, Hamilton.
Yeah, that'd be a great cup for sure. Curious, stepping outside of the Stampeders now and the Grey Cup talk, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this onside kick that the Als have been using to gain first
Love
down. Me
Love
too. Me too.
Love it.
This was actually the first season that I've ever seen it done. I've never seen it done before, and when I saw it done, I was like, "What the heck?" I'm like, "That is a huge loophole that more teams should be using."
Yeah, absolutely. So when is this going up?
This will go up Wednesday night.
Wednesday night. Okay. So all right. Just for context, because I've got an article coming out tomorrow where I reference both the onside punt and Jason Moss getting deep in the playbook. So I encourage people to find the trick or treat article I wrote on 3 Down Nation because it'll show you how much I love that onside punt. I love that onside punt so much just because I love the idea that it's that deep in the rule book. And on 1st and 20, you can't play a 15-yard soft zone anymore. You have to play press coverage in 1st and 20. And if you're playing press coverage in 1st and 20 to avoid the dribble kick, then now that opens up things down the field and more teams are going to be able to convert, right? I think it opens up a substantial chunk of what Canadian football can be. I'm really, really hoping the league doesn't crack down on it this year and take it away. I'm terrified that the rules committee will somehow say, oh, the onside punt must cross first down yardage in order for it to be recoverable by the punt or whatever it is. I'm terrified that will happen, or it's got to travel 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards in order for it to be, technically an onside punt, right? I'm hoping they don't change it. I think it's great the way it is. And I really love the idea that Montreal's done it not once but twice.
Yeah, at least twice. I think they've done it 3 times.
They've tried 3 times, but they've only been successful twice.
Oh, okay. Yes, gotcha.
They've only been successful twice. So they've tried it 3 times, but they only made it work twice. But the idea that they pulled it out again this week means you have to watch it for it in the playoffs. If you're Hamilton and you're playing 5 yards off the line, your coach is going to kill you for it. You've got to be there. You've got to be ready to receive that onside punt attempt.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of talk about the rule committee probably making this the last year that will be done, but we'll see.
I hope not. I love things that make our game uniquely Canadian, and this is one of those things. This separates it. It makes NFL people angry. And I'm all for any rule that makes an NFL fan go, so stupid. Those are my favorite kind of CFL rules. Yeah. And I'm totally here for it.
Why do you get a point for missing a field goal?
So that I think does need a subtle change, just a subtle change. I think in order on the missed field goal for the point to count, the ball has to be downed or bounce inbounds. So either
Oh,
receiver has to catch it and concede the point, or it has to bounce through the end zone, like a punt, right? If I think it would need to bounce through the end zone or be catchable inbounds for the point to count. I think that's one of the just a subtle change to that rule could eliminate all of the people who say, oh, well, you get a point for a missed field goal. No, you get a point if the returner decides not to return it or can't get to the ball.
right.
That's to me is what the single point should be for.
That's actually not a bad idea. I like that one.
Yeah, much like the kickoff, you don't get the kickoff point if it rolls through the end zone, but if the guy downs it in the end zone, you get the point. I think that similar logic should be applied to field goals.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's definitely a good point. So people can find you at BB Can Ryan on Instagram and Twitter. Tell folks
And
where else they can find you.
and Threads and Blue Sky and. If you have a social media platform and I'm on it as BB Can Ryan. There's no others out there, so you can find me on all the social media platforms. Check out our podcast. It's the Go Stamps Go Show. We have an episode in the can from Derek Wigan that we recorded with him in the last bye week that I'm hoping to get posted here this week. And hopefully we'll get another show in before the playoffs. But go back through our show. It's not always about the game of the week, especially with our player interviews. We had Jay McNeil on at the beginning of the year to talk about the challenges the Stampeders were facing from a business side, and I think that was a very enlightening conversation that I encourage people to listen to. We talked about his playing career and then also talked about his role as the VP of Development or VP of Business Development at the Stampeders. So there's a lot of really kind of good Stampeders interviews in there that I recommend you go back and listen to. We talk about their lives, their journey through football, and how they became one of our beloved Calgary Stampeders.
Nice, excellent. Well, tune into Ryan Ballantine and Cast live at 55 and Horseman Radio and wherever else. Maybe he'll be on Big Brother again sometime. You never know.
It would have to be a lot more money than they paid me the last time in order to get me to do that again. But that doesn't mean I don't think you should do it. If you've got time, you go do it. Just be aware you need to be able to afford to be away from everything for 3 months. And afford is the key sentence.
Well, I'm making this big podcast, which is raking in the dough. So
huge dollars, I'm sure.
All right, Ryan, thanks for joining the show, and we'll see you down the road sometime, I'm sure.
Thanks so much for having me. We'll do this again soon.
Excellent. Have a great night.
You too.
All right. Once again, that's my chat with Ryan Ballantine of the Go Stamps Go Show, Big Brother Canada, etc., etc. You can catch him on all social media platforms, pretty much. BB Can Ryan. Great conversation. So go check them out whenever you can. Now let's get to my CFL predictions for the playoffs this weekend. So we're going to start in the East with Hamilton and Montreal. So this game, I think, is going to depend a lot on quarterbacks. On Hamilton's side, Bo Levi Mitchell and Matthew Schultz are both going to share the quarterbacking duties, according to Coach Orlando Steinhauer. Neither quarterback has been hot this season, I don't think. Ticats have found ways to win despite that. This is playoff football now, so both quarterbacks are going to have to come into play. It's simple as that. Montreal side, we got Cody Fajardo, and Fajardo, while typically showing up during the regular season, has been the scapegoat in previous playoff games, of course, with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So I feel like Fajardo is actually going to show up and show well in this game. So I'm going to go with the Owls winning this one and moving on to face the beast from the East, the Argos, in the East Final. And once we find out the results from these games next week on the show, I'll make my predictions for the finals. Now let's head to BC Place in BC, where the Stampeders, my Stampeders, will take on the BC Lions. While the Stampeders may have the worst odds to win the Grey Cup this year, odds of winning are plus 3,500. Go bet now. Just kidding, don't. I feel their odds to beat BC on the way are pretty good. The Stamps beat the Lions 41-16 in a huge upset 2 weeks ago. Now with a season full of injuries and drop passes behind them, sorry, I have full confidence in Jake Mayer and the Stampeders overcoming the BC Lions to meet the Blue Bombers in the West Final. Book it. Don't book the Grey Cup, though, because I'm not so certain anybody's going to go through Winnipeg, and in the East, I'm not so certain anyone's going to go through Toronto either. So very scary, very scary. So sorry. Go check out the Elks call from my friends Catherine and Scout, aka the Elks Herd, later on tonight at 8:30 on the Shotgun Sports Network YouTube channel. I'm actually going to be on the show tonight. And from Puck and Pigskin World Headquarters in Red Deer, Alberta, have a great night.